You're listening to the Telltale Channel. Don't forget to check me out on all social media: Patreon, Twitter, Teespring, and Etsy. All links can be found in the description or on my website, telltaleatheist.com. So the next article I wanted to talk about is about Kenneth Copeland basically declaring the pandemic over for good. And, okay, so I think he's done this 3 times total now. We covered the third one last week. This is the second time he did it. We haven't covered the first time he did it yet. We may end up doing that next week, but this is by The Independent. So let's give this article a read and see what it says. American televangelist Kenneth Copeland, who recently claimed that the coronavirus pandemic will be over much sooner than you think, because Christian people all over this country praying have overwhelmed it, has summoned the wind of God to destroy the novel coronavirus during a recent sermon. Before blowing at the camera, he said, "I blow the wind of God on you. You are destroyed forever, and you'll never be back. Thank you, God. Let it happen. Cause it to happen." This guy is really strange. I said this on Twitter recently. If I believed that Satan was real, I would believe that this guy was Satan incarnate. Like, this guy is very, very bizarre. Just his mannerisms, his facial features, everything about him is fucking weird. Let's continue reading. In a sermon last month, the pastor executed judgment on COVID-19, which he declared finished and over, and made the U.S. healed and well again. He also demanded a vaccination to come immediately. His Texas-based Kenneth Copeland Ministries megachurch previously has claimed that viewers of his show can be healed of the virus by touching their screens, and he has urged viewers to continue paying tithes despite losing their jobs amid unprecedented unemployment claims within the last several weeks. He also has compared the virus to the flu and suggested people who attended his services could be healed in person. Oh my God. This is a quote. "If we have to pass out thermometers, if we find one with a fever, let's get him healed right there," he said. "What do you do if you get it? Big deal." He does not understand the seriousness of this situation. One thing I want to make note of here before we continue on, he says, if we have to pass out thermometers, if we find one with a fever. Fever is not a guaranteed symptom. A lot of people are asymptomatic. A lot of people don't have fevers at all from this. You can't tell if somebody has this or not based on whether or not they have a fever. The pastor who supports Donald Trump, didn't know that, also argued to his followers that the president's opponents had opened the door for the virus with their displays of hate against him. Oh my God. Several other prominent evangelical leaders in the Christian right who rely on miraculous healing in their ministries also have denied the pandemic in addresses to their followers. Florida Pentecostal pastor Rodney Howard Brown held several services in packed churches despite warnings from health officials and doctors to avoid large gatherings to prevent spreading the disease, which he called a phantom plague, before his arrest for violating social distancing rules. Glad he got arrested for that. Roy Moore, who launched a failed bid endorsed by the president for a Senate seat in Alabama, has defended Louisiana pastor Tony Spell after he was charged for continually shunning a statewide ban on large gatherings. I remember Roy Moore, and I remember that whole mess when he was trying to get elected. Glad he lost. Mr. Moore told his followers it's their duty to continue attending church services despite the pandemic. I swear he wants to get people killed. I swear he wants to get people killed. There's a tweet from somebody named Brandon Kimber here, and it's got the video on it. The tweet says, "Copeland declares the wind of God to blow to destroy COVID-19. He then says it doesn't have to be a fast wind. Then the Lord tells him it's even better if there's no wind at all." Let's watch the clip and see what's happening here.
I blow the wind of God, on you. You are destroyed forever. And you'll never be back. Thank you, our God. Let it happen. Cause it to happen. The wind of God. A strong, it doesn't have to be a fast wind. Didn't say anything about it being blowing over 40 miles an hour. Don't have to. Just hot. Hey, we know what hot is in Texas. This thing is going to hit in New Orleans. Well, I'm telling you, it gets hot down there. I mean, like Jesse says, it's Africa hot down there, man, because it's right there on the coast. It gets muggy, and that's what it takes to kill this thing. It hates heat. It hates humidity. It hates water. It just dies.
Well, let me just pause there for a second. What the guy's saying here is actually inaccurate. He's saying that humidity and heat kill it. That's partially true, but not entirely. It slows it down. It does not kill it. So right now, what we're in the middle of is a worldwide pandemic. That's what we're dealing with at this immediate moment, right? That means it's in hundreds of countries. I think there are like 196 countries, or there were last I checked, or 192, somewhere in there. I think it's in like 180-something countries right now. It's like all over the world, right? There are all kinds of climates across the world. In Africa, New Zealand, the United States, China, South Korea, Greenland, Iceland, all of those other places, they're all dealing with this too, and they all have different climates. So yeah, humidity and heat do slow it down, but they don't stop it. Everybody's dealing with this right now, no matter how humid or hot it is. So his hope that humidity and heat are going to end it and we're just going to go back to normal is absolutely absurd. That's completely absurd. That's not going to happen. Anyway, let's continue listening. We've got about a minute of it remaining.
Burn. Burn. The wind. It's even better. I just heard the Lord say this because I've witnessed it. It's even better if there's no wind at all. Because I want to tell you, yeah, you a California boy, you don't know much about this. But son, you ain't never seen hot until it gets hot in Texas. And it gets muggy down there in Houston and in New Orleans. And it gets, oh God, I can't even go outside. That's good. Stay in the house. Turn on the air conditioner and watch that demon die. Watch it die right in front of you.
That was extremely disturbing. The guy is like, I don't know. I don't know if this guy, I don't know the guy's like life story. I don't know his history. I wish that I could read a book about his life to kind of understand where he's coming from, because it's like he acts in such a strange, unusual, bizarre way that I feel like he's completely separated from real life, like real society. He doesn't know what normal people act like. When people make jokes about him being a lizard person, doesn't really understand like how to be a human or whatever. And I can definitely understand that. Of course, he is a human. He's not a lizard person. It's just a joke. But I get the joke. Like, I get where they're coming from with that joke. It's like he's been so separated from society, he just doesn't understand how to act like a human. I was just talking to my friend about this earlier, about Michael Jackson, and how strange Michael Jackson was. Like, the guy is just really weird, really odd, really bizarre, doesn't act normal, doesn't act like a normal human. And I feel like that can be explained by the fact that Michael Jackson grew up Jehovah's Witness, and he grew up famous. So I grew up Jehovah's Witness, and I was missing something. They took something from me. They robbed me of something fundamental. They robbed me of some personality trait that every other person out there has that I just don't and never will, because I didn't grow up normal. The same thing happened to Michael Jackson, except it was exacerbated with him because he grew up famous also. So he was largely separated from society for two different reasons. He was famous and he was a Jehovah's Witness. And I feel like that explains Michael Jackson's really strange behavior throughout his whole life. And I feel like that explains Kenneth Copeland's strange behavior. I think his separation from society is his own choice now. Like I said, I don't know what his life was before he was a famous preacher. Maybe he was separated from society when he was a kid also. But I just don't think he knows what normal society is like, what normal humans act like. And he's got this little posse of yes men all around him, basically backing him up. His hype men. I think Hemant Mehta calls them his hype men, and I think that's a pretty on-point term for them. It's just really sad. It's an extremely sad situation that the guy is so disconnected from reality, because in many ways I can relate with that. Doesn't excuse the bad decisions, the fucked up things he's said and done. Does not excuse that stuff, bottom line.